AI image generation just took another big jump up with OpenAI ditching Dall-E for a new model that is really impressive. But of course, it does have some limitations and quirks. That said, it also has some interesting, we'll call them hidden features that you're definitely going to want to check out. Quick bit of housekeeping before we get started. Earlier this week, I did release my AI short film, The Bridge. If you caught it, I do appreciate the watch. If you missed it, it is of course linked down below. Now, I did promise a full production breakdown of the film, but to be honest, I got a little jammed up with my production schedule, so that video will be released tomorrow, or already is up depending on when you're watching this. That out of the way, let's kick off with our main story, namely that OpenAI has spelled the end for avocado chairs. Yeah, it appears that Dall-E, at least from a name branding standpoint, is now done. OpenAI have released a new image generation model that is not called Dall-E 4. In fact, it's actually just nameless. I mean, come on, OpenAI. Rene Magritte is just sitting there. Names aside, this finally does deliver on the implied promise on the release of Dall-E 3 that you would be able to conversationally interact with images. This new image generator is, of course, available in ChatGPT and on the Sora platform, and there are some interesting differences between the two. We'll take a look at that in just a little bit. In the meantime, we'll kick off with some of my tests and what I picked up along the way, and then we'll check out some community outputs. Of course, we'll kick off with our man in the blue business suit chronicles. Last we saw him, he was at an abandoned train station and a wolf showed up. So checking in, of course, he is now on the run from that wolf. Prompt here, of course, is a cinematic photograph, a man in a blue business suit running from a wolf who is chasing him through the desert at magic hour. Pretty solid output. I do appreciate the fact that we've got a little bit of, terror or emotion in our blue business suit guy. So, contextually aware of the fact that he is being chased by a wolf. Wolf looks great. Background looks great. Yeah, overall, solid image here. So I've been primarily focusing on the Sora platform for these tests. We'll take a look at some of the stuff on the, ChatGPT side in a little bit. Some interesting choices made here, namely aspect ratios. Really only 3 flavors in 3:2, 1:1, and 2:3. Can't say I'm necessarily thrilled about that. We do have the ability to add in reference images. That's actually something that is super powerful. We'll have a whole section on that coming up in just a little bit, as well as options to generate 1 image, 2 images, or 4 images. Finally, there are some presets here. Actually, some handy use cases there as well. One thing to mention is that this image model definitely wants to lean into illustrated and kind of animated styles. For example, my first blue business suit guy yielded this as a result, hence why I had to put, cinematic as a keyword at the front of that prompt. Not a huge deal. I just want to point it out in case you run into multiple illustrated styled outputs. Hey, it looks like night has fallen and these two have made friends. That's nice to see. Second test, very much a gimme, a samurai at magic hour, 35mm film. Looks really great, silhouetted. We got the magic hour, we got the samurai, no notes. Continuing on with some simpler prompts, here is a photograph of a clown holding a chainsaw at a kid's backyard birthday party. What, you didn't grow up with chainsaw clowns at birthday parties? I mean, overall, yes, terrifying, but I mean, definitely nailed the assignment here. We do have, kids at a birthday party, a clown, a chainsaw, and then the added benefit of having happy birthday spelled correctly in the background. Text is something that this model definitely flies at. We're going to be taking a look at probably one of the most impressive examples of that I've seen in quite some time. Now, I decided to push the model with a very difficult prompt, checking in with our woman in the red dress. She is, of course, the ex-wife of the man in the blue business suit, last seen on a date with the man in the yellow jacket. Well, she has returned home now and is apparently wistfully looking at pictures of her wedding day. Now, this was an interesting compositional challenge for the model, as I gave it not only details about the photograph itself, but about her expression as she's looking at it. So yeah, I mean, I got to admit, it did its best. And to note, I guess you can kind of read this as she's reading something written on the back. That said, if you have a shot like this, you can always move into the remix function. And if you give it a prompt like over the shoulder shot, focusing on the photograph, we do indeed end up with that shot. Our woman in the red dress, I mean, presumably she would be the same character. And then, background details all look like they would be a consistent location. This will obviously be very handy for visual storytelling, at least when we end up with an aspect ratio of 16:9. Moving into some more imaginative prompts. This is a prompt that I cribbed from Faux for a while back. We use used this in our Imagen 3 test. The prompt here is an underwater photo of a dark-haired woman, slightly crouched, hair flowing up, 90s bedroom, submersed in water, jeans, black sweater, blue walls. We had plush red carpet, 80s laptop, and wicker white table. And I got to admit, pretty much nailed it. You know, red carpet, blue walls, white wicker table, both the TV and, well, that laptop definitely looks like, you know, I don't know, like 97 era IBM ThinkPad. Does anybody remember those? Sticking with the 90s nostalgia, here is a VHS tape of my short film, The Bridge. It did pretty well on the box art itself. The videotape itself is a little bit of a mess. That's something that I would probably edit out. A little bit of garbled text on the video cassette recorder here, but I also did not prompt for that. And, well, you know, maybe it's a Sony VHS player. That said, when you do prompt for text, this thing can fly. Checking in, of course, on our fictional Alan Wake novelization by fictional author Donka Mindy, along with the Stephen King quote, "Please stop asking me about this book. It does not exist." It basically nailed everything that I asked for and then brought it all together in an image that clearly illustrates that it knows what Alan Wake is. I wanted to see how far we could push that text, so I headed over to ChatGPT and just asked it to give me the opening paragraphs of a fictional novelization of the game Alan Wake, and it gave me, basically, a couple of opening paragraphs. Taking that text and running it with the prompt photograph of a page from a paperback novel and then just, copy pasting it. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Not only did it pick up on, chapter 1, the darkness in the rear view as the chapter title, but, obviously it got all of the text pretty much. Yeah, no, I got everything correct. The only thing that I really caught was that there seems to be like a weird dash glitch between written and A, and then up here in sunset, there's a space between sun and set. So that is a pretty considerable amount of text generated by an AI image model. Rounding out with a couple of final text tests. You don't want to know how many takes it took for me to say text tests. Here we have a PS5 game cover for GTA 7 set in Branson, Missouri. If you were not familiar with Branson, Missouri, it is where crime goes to die. Overall, I definitely think it nailed the assignment here. Compositionally, it definitely feels like it would be a GTA cover. Stylistically, maybe not quite in the same vein, but who's to say that, by the time they hit Grand Theft Auto 7, they don't change up the art style a little bit. Branding is completely and totally on point here. Actually, the only thing that I see that's a little bit kind of sloppy is duck rides down here. Comes out as ride ducks, and actually it's spelled ride wrong. Now here is where things get pretty interesting, because image referencing in this model, well, it's a little bit like Sora's remix function in that it is very powerful, but also has some limitations, because of course it does. First off, I do think it's important to note that a lot of the demo material that we saw tended to be reinterpretations of photographs in kind of an anime or Studio Ghibli style. That is, of course, because it is Scrambling Faces from photographic references, much in the same way that Midjourney does. So yeah, taking this image of me and then giving it a prompt of an action figure of me, we can see clearly that it has, scrambled the reference photo of my face, given me a haircut as well, but also kind of made me... I kind of feel like I end up looking like a cross between me and John Mulaney. It kind of does it across the board as well. This is oddly a Midjourney generated image of the character John Wick, not the actor Keanu Reeves. And when utilizing that as an image reference, well, we end up with this, which is, actually just ends up the version of John Wick that's streaming on Tubi that you didn't notice actually said Jorn Wick. Now, to me, that is okay, because the model is showing some real strengths in terms of illustrated and animated consistent characters. You can go the other direction too. We'll take a look at that in just 1 second. Now, one really interesting, maybe hidden feature is the fact that you can provide multiple image references into your prompt. This is a character that I generated up in Midjourney, and this is a background that I generated up in Midjourney. Bringing both of them in as image references, we end up with this image, which looks pretty good. Now, stylistically, it did change the aesthetic of our initial input character, but here's the thing, is that we can re-reference with her and different backgrounds, and stylistically, it pretty much remains consistent to this model's version of her. So that is definitely pretty handy. It might take you a few re-rolls to get, everything exactly right, but that's just the name of the game when it comes to AI. And well, it's free. And although I'm still testing this, it does seem like there's another layer to a consistent character in a location, granted in a little bit of a different style. If you take one of your outputs, say like this image, and then remix it yet again with a different prompt action, but then reinforce with not only your location, but your original character as well. And when we remix this, we end up with this, which is stylistically different, I do admit, but I have a theory that, via this prompt image reinforcement, that we probably end up with something that remains pretty consistent within this location at least, and possibly get a couple more shots out of this. I'll let you know what I find. In the meantime, let's check in with our old friend, Daniela Van de Donk, dressed as a pirate. We haven't seen her in a while. So initial experiments with her to give her a photographic look did not come out so great. Just by prompting photograph of a female pirate, captain standing on the deck of her ship, ended up with essentially another illustrated image. Expanding out our prompt more with photorealistic close-up portrait and then followed by a whole bunch of details, still ended up, in an illustrated look. So ultimately the trick to actually nail a photographic look here, and to note, yes, it isn't exactly her. Once again, that is not what this model does. But if you want to end up with a result like this, you'll actually have to utilize one of the presets. Namely, I used archival here, which seems to be, sort of like the photographic one. The rest of them tend to be a little more on the cartoony side. But yeah, ultimately, that is what ended up working. Since we are on the Sora platform, I'm sure you're wondering, how does it end up looking when you generate a video? Well, Sora is, of course, still doing Sora stuff. I did end up getting this one, which I thought was pretty good, despite the changed aspect ratio. Sora is still kind of a mess. That said, it is now free to use for everyone, and I have heard some rumors that there is a substantial update coming to Sora soon, so fingers crossed there. As I always feel the need to say, I am super critical of Sora. It's only because I want it to be good, and I know it can be done. Moving on to some community updates, resident Midjourney town crier Nick St. Pierre generates up this image, which I think is really, once again, showcasing how much text can be utilized within this model. And just, how kind of funny it is too. I love like reindeer parking down here by permit only and violators will be placed on the naughty list. That's great. My pals over at AI for Humans, shout out to Gav and Kev, give us a reinterpretation of Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction. Once again, I do think that this image really illustrates the fact that you aren't getting like structure references with this model. If you can tell, like the orientation of Uma's head here and where her eyes are pointed, and then the animated version of it, head is like in a different position, very so slightly, but the eyes are definitely pointed in a different direction. Fofer gives me one of my favorite generations that I've seen. Create a book cover for the TV show Severance, make it look like it's from 1973 and slightly worn. Yeah, love everything about this. In an alternate output of that prompt, I did find it very interesting that the model actually gave the author to Dan Erickson, the creator of the show Severance, and then listed the cast below. So, once again, showcasing the model definitely knows what Severance is and who's in it. Rounding out, this video did end up getting a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I did quickly want to highlight the fact that Reve also dropped. This is a model that excels at realism and creativity. It was actually charting at the top of the leaderboard charts recently under the name Half Moon, recently revealed as Reve. You get 20 free credits a day, and pricing being at least currently the lowest in the AI image generation space. So yeah, definitely go over and check them out. Get your 20 free credits in for today and try again tomorrow. See if you like it. And well, as I'm making this video, Ideogram just dropped version 3 as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot on the list. But first we got to get through the production breakdown on the bridge. That is again coming up tomorrow. Hope to see you over there. Thank you for watching as always. My name is Tim.